Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are tackling a topic that is just constantly surrounded by myths, rumors, and honestly, a whole lot of social media hype. We're looking at how much money do you actually make in the USA, the real truth. If you're a new immigrant, a young professional, or maybe an international student just touching down in the States, you've probably heard some pretty wild stories about American wealth. Well, today, we're putting away those rumors, we're setting aside the Instagram filters, and we're looking strictly at the facts. Get ready, because it's time for a serious reality check.
Let's start with a big question, one that might seem, a little silly at first glance, but it's actually right at the core of how the US is viewed globally. Is everyone in America becoming a millionaire overnight? You log onto your phone, you scroll through social media, and man, it seems like everyone has a massive mansion and a luxury sports car by the time they're 22 years old. It's this incredibly idealized, algorithm-fueled fantasy. But is it real? Does the ground literally sprout dollar bills the second you step off the plane? No way! We really need to separate that Hollywood fantasy from the everyday financial landscape that millions of real people actually experience.
Okay, let's dive into this. Seriously, stop scrolling for just a few minutes and give this your full attention. It is time to look at the real numbers. No more guessing, no more relying on what your friend's cousin's neighbor said about their paycheck. We're going to strip away the hype and look at the raw data today. Because, frankly, the only way to truly grasp the American financial landscape is to take the emotion out of it and just look at the math. So, are you ready to see how it actually works? Let's get into it.
Section 1. Doing the math. The gross income.
Look, every financial journey has to start somewhere, right? For a student or a new immigrant entering the U.S. workforce, that starting line is typically right here, $15 to $20 an hour. If you're moving to the U.S. looking for a part-time gig, or if you're taking on an entry-level job just to get your foot in the door, this is the standard hourly rate you're looking at in today's economy. It's essentially the bedrock of the American wage system for folks just starting out. Now, by itself, that might just sound like a small, kind of flat figure, but to really understand the impact, we've got to scale it up.
Let's build this out together. You take that base pay of $15 to $20, you put in a standard 40-hour American work week, and bam, you're clearing $600 to $800 every single week. Multiply that out for the entire month, and your monthly total sits roughly between $2,500 and $3,200. It's crazy to watch how quickly that initial hourly rate accumulates. It steps up into what feels like a massive mountain of cash for an entry-level worker.
I want you to really lock in on that figure for a second. $3,200. It sounds like it's on a money back home, right? And honestly, if you take that $3,200 and convert it into many other global currencies, it truly is. You might be staring at that paycheck thinking, you already made it. It's a thrill to see those big numbers land in your bank account. But hold on. Gross income isn't what you keep. That gross number is literally just the beginning of the story. Wait for it.
Section 2. The hidden expenses. The twist.
Here is the twist, and it's a big one. Uncle Sam takes his cut first. This is where things get a little heavy, as we dive into the very real, very practical costs of living in America. Before you even have a chance to spend a dime of that $3,200, before you can buy a coffee or pay a single bill, the government is going to take the initial bite right out of it. That gross number, it's kind of an illusion, because taxes always take their share right off the top.
Watch how fast this budget vanishes. Federal, state, and FICA taxes instantly devour 15 to 20% of your paycheck. Boom, it's gone. Then comes rent, which in the U.S. easily costs $1,000 to $1,500 a month, depending on the city you're in. That is a massive chunk of your income completely wiped out just to have a roof over your head. And what's left? Well, that has to cover absolute necessities. I'm talking health insurance, groceries, and transport. These are not luxuries, guys. These are basic requirements for survival in the States. It's honestly staggering to see those major expenses laid out like this. Notice that tiny sliver left over at the very end? Yeah, that's all you actually have left to save or spend on yourself.
Suddenly, half your money is just gone, or even more. This is the sobering truth of the American financial system for entry-level earners. That initial big number we saw earlier, that $3,000 a month, is practically a mirage once your basic survival costs are factored in. The rent, the taxes, the food, the transit, it absolutely devours the paycheck. It's a pretty harsh wake-up call, and it hits a lot of new arrivals and young professionals very hard when they realize their purchasing power just isn't what they thought it would be.
Section 3. The long-term payoff. The optimistic path. But hey, do not get discouraged. Seriously, there is a very real, well-worn path out of the entry-level grind. The U.S. economy isn't solely defined by that initial struggle. First, work hard. The U.S. system heavily rewards dedication, upskilling, and hustle. Second, save smartly. Protect that tiny leftover sliver of income we talked about. Be frugal and manage it wisely. And third, graduate into a specialized job. Think software engineering, finance, or nursing. Whether that means finishing a university degree, getting some certifications, or just working your way up the corporate ladder, shifting into the professional sector is the ultimate goal here. This is your escape route. This is how you reach that high-paying tier.
The contrast between where you start and where you can end up is absolutely staggering. You start out making an entry-level annual estimate of roughly $30,000 to $38,000 a year. That represents the $15 to $20 an hour math we did at the very beginning, but if you follow those steps, if you upskill and break into the corporate world, you can easily pull in $70,000 to over $100,000 annually. We're talking about doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling your initial earning power. The potential payoff for sticking it out and climbing that ladder, it's massive.
Section 4. The American Dream Today. Over the last few minutes, we've gone from the pure excitement of that first paycheck, straight through the harsh truth of taxes and rent, all the way to the massive potential of corporate payoffs. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. Think about this. Is the American dream still alive, or is it just hype? When you weigh the intense initial struggle and the crazy expenses at the beginning against that six-figure potential at the end, what do you think? I want you to really ponder the math we just went through. Does that high-earning corporate payoff make the initial expensive grind worth it? I'd absolutely love to hear your take on this balance. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this explainer with someone who needs to see the real numbers before they make the big move, and keep joining us as we continue to uncover the actualities hidden in the data. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.